If you want to get started with ClickUp in 2026, you're in the right place. You're going to discover the brand new ClickUp 4.0 UI, everything about the hierarchy, views, custom fields, how to get to understand all the concept of ClickUp. And if you don't know me already and you're discovering me with this video, my name is Ramzi and I'm a ClickUp verified consultant. I founded Upsys and we're an agency that helps businesses work 2 or 3 times faster with solid systems through processes in ClickUp, automations, and AI agents. We can leverage the web and new technologies for your team to operate much more efficiently at 2 or 3 times the rate with the exact same team size. So if you're interested about Upsys and what we can do for you, and you feel like you have a little bit of budget for consulting, you can book a discovery call, the link's down below, and we'd be happy to help you out. But if you just want to know about how to use ClickUp 4.0 in 2026, just stay in this video with me and I'm going to show you everything. Let's go. So the first thing I want to start with is picking the right plan for you on ClickUp. There's 4 different plans on ClickUp and you want to go at least for unlimited. There's no point in using free forever. You basically only get like 2% of the features, whereas if you go to unlimited, you already unlock about 80% of the features. It lets you create as many spaces, folders, lists, views as you want, and you can use custom fields and chat the unlimited way. And then from there, if you feel like you need dashboarding and time tracking, you need to go for the business plan, where the enterprise plan is dedicated for companies that have specific compliance rules and need specific security, SSO, and things like that. Now, what I recommend you is to get started with unlimited and then decide if it makes sense for your team to upgrade to the business plan. Now, if you go down the pricing page in ClickUp, you're going to discover the AI pricing. And the thing with AI in ClickUp is that it applies to everyone at your company. So if you have 20 seats, you're going to pay AI for 20 people. Everything in Brain AI is more than enough to get going. I always recommend to start with the cheapest plan and then upgrade as you go and as your needs increase. Now, that being said, you're going to get going on ClickUp. You've picked a plan and you can see this very intimidating UI at the beginning. So ClickUp has really made a lot of effort into improving their UI over time and making it less clunky and more modern. Your UI is basically made of a side navigation bar, a top search bar, and then here you're gonna have a sidebar for your hierarchy, and here you're gonna have your actual content, your tasks, your communications, your chat, whatever, so your context. So I'm gonna showcase each Lego block from the most outside to the most inside. So we're gonna get started with the navigation bar on the left. Once you land on ClickUp, you're gonna have this new navigation bar that's available in 4.0 and lets you navigate between your homepage, your spaces, your chat, because ClickUp now includes chat, and I'll get back to that, your calendar. Then you're gonna have ClickUp Brain, which is basically to its bare bone like a ChatGPT in your ClickUp. So you can actually pick your model between ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc. And then just chat about anything and mention context, either people, tasks, documents, and from there you can also create super agents with specific roles, instructions, and everything. They can go through your Slack, go through Google Drive, answer some specific emails, put them in your draft, or do things like triage your tasks into your ClickUp and give you a weekly summaries. With that being said, I'm gonna move on to the next items. You can see documents, you can see your dashboards, you can see your time entries if you do time tracking in here. After we've gone through that sidebar, I'm gonna talk to you about the search bar. And I found myself using that search bar about 80-90% of the time rather than going into the hierarchy. So if I look for something like finalize, and there's actually a word that's close in a task, it will let me select that task and get in there straight away. So I can just search for any task just by searching in that search bar at the top or pressing Command K or Control K on my keyboard. Next up, you're gonna have your sidebar. So the first thing you have in your sidebar is your inbox. Your inbox is gonna be where you get notifications about anything happening over a task you're watching. And the first thing you wanna do when you set up ClickUp is make sure you don't watch every single task you created. So to do so, you're gonna go on the top right and go to the settings. And then in notifications, you're gonna keep only your inbox on the focused tasks. And then you're gonna set your email to mentions only and only follow tasks that you actually comment. That way you will not be notified when someone's just changing the status or commenting over tasks that you happen to have created. So if you set things up that way, you should get way less overwhelmed with items, with tasks, with notifications and emails popping up, and you can focus on what matters. So I'm going to clear out some of my inbox and show you how it works. As you can see here, there is a task and someone has sent me a message. They have said latest changes integrated. And what I can do is actually say, okay, can you finish the review? And then just collaborate over a task without having to get into the task. I can then clear out my inbox and move on to the next topic. If you open any task in your inbox, you know exactly what it's about. The content, the description, the task, who's the client in here. And that's the power of ClickUp versus using your email inbox. Now, I'm not gonna go into my tasks and stuff, but these are shortcuts to see your personal tasks, what's overdue to you, and get a quick glance at what you have to do. So think of it as your personal views that you can set up the way you want, group the way you want, that you can filter the way you want, and no one else will be affected by that. And that brings me to the hierarchy. So the ClickUp hierarchy is the way your tasks and subtasks are organized. Any task or subtask lives in the hierarchy. It lives in a list. So first off, you're gonna have workspaces. Workspaces is everything here. For example, it's called Upsys demo. So it's everything encapsulated in what I'm showing you. Spaces are what I have in here: people, sales, marketing, web design, tech. So if I open this space, inside I have a little folder icon, and some of these icons, like here, they're list icons. Workspace, space, folders, and list. And inside those lists, that's where your tasks are at. So if you want to see this a bit more visually mapped out, you have an example of a workspace here. It has a sales space, a delivery space, an operations space. And in here, we have some folders like proposals, resources, active projects, and lists can be in or out of a folder. So if we get back to ClickUp, we have an example of lists that are in folders. We have the IT help desk list, for example, being out of a folder and in the space level directly. So that means that you're able to organize things the way you want, and folders are just a way to encapsulate your lists. I often see teams using folders for lists that should just be at space level. So be careful for when you use folders. And if you're not sure on how to architect your hierarchy, you have three options. Either you watch this video and you go your own route and you try to architect your hierarchy the way you want and the way you feel is the most fit, or you get some help. If you do have time but don't have the budget necessary for full-on consulting, there's a course we've created called ClickUp Master. You're gonna have bite-sized modules and lessons with short videos, explainers, and exercises for you to set up your first ClickUp workspace. We also offer consulting services, and if you want guarantee your workspace is architectured and optimized for your team, just book a discovery call with us and we'll be happy to help you out through consulting. Now, with that said, it is something to take very seriously how you set up your hierarchy, because as you can see in this diagram, this can get quickly overwhelming. This is a super simple workspace with 3 spaces, but if you start thinking of all the lists, all the spaces, all the statuses you need to set up, all the views, all the custom fields, which is not even a concept I've talked about, you will feel a little bit overwhelmed at the beginning. And the most important advice I can give you is to keep things simple at the start. You want to keep things simple and then improve as you go. So that being said, I'm going to move on to getting into one actual list. So here we have an editing list. This editing list just shows tasks that are actual videos to be edited. We're in the video editing agency example here. We have our tasks as lists. They have descriptions, they have assignees, and they have time tracked. So basically we have a bunch of fields in our view. And I'm using the word view because you can see these tasks as a list and you could group them any way you want. You could group them by assignee if you wanted, but you can also view them a different way. So if you were to go here, as you can see, there is a Kanban that ClickUp calls the board view, and you could see your tasks by status in a vertical way. And if I were to click on plus view, I can also display calendars, tables, timelines, And if I clicked here, I could see my tasks over time in a calendar, and they display this way. So all of these little layouts, they're called views, and they let you view tasks a certain way that's adapted to you. And again, it's not because you have 10 plus views available that you should use them all. The biggest mistake I see when we set up a workspace for a client is they've created too many views that they don't use. So always start with 1 or 2 views. Views are very, very customizable because you can group them, as I've shown you earlier, but you can also filter out some tasks from them. So say I don't want to see tasks that don't have an assignee, I can click here and say assignee is set, and that will only show me tasks that have an assignee, which doesn't mean I will not see the unassigned tasks anywhere else, because if I go here, I can see that I have this task that doesn't have an assignee. But if I were to put an assignee in here, and if I went back to the list, it refreshes because this task now has an assignee. So any change you make will be tied to the view setup you've done. And be careful with how you've set up your views, because sometimes you might be like, oh my God, I lost my tasks. I don't know where they are. And it's actually just that the view has been set up with a filter, or you haven't turned on showing the closed tasks. So you really need to be careful with your view setups here at the top. Now, say you have these default fields in ClickUp, which are assignees, due dates, status, estimates, but you also want to track something else. You're a video editor and you want to track the video format. So what you can do is actually have a new field called custom field. ClickUp suggests you custom field with AI now, for example, video length. But if I wanted to track, say, the video format, I could create a new field, which is a drop down here. Think of the most likely value, 16 by 9, 9 by 16, 4 by 3, and we have different values for different video formats. And that lets me track this on a video level, on a task level. It's a field that you create for your team based on your need. So here we're a video editing agency, so we want to create a video format custom field. And if I were to update a video format here and open a task, I can see that this format displays here at the bottom, which brings me to the anatomy of a task. A task contains a few key areas you need to understand. Here we have the main information of the task, things that you see in a lot of project tools like status, start date, due dates, tracking time, and things like that. And here below, you're gonna have the fields of the task that are custom. So you're gonna be able to create as many custom fields as you want here, or from the columns that I showed you earlier, a specific field for the batch, one for the video format, one for the email address. You're gonna have subtasks, and these can actually be AI generated, planning the video, gathering the equipment, shooting and stuff. And you can obviously add a bunch of other information. We can add dependencies between tasks. We can create a checklist, attach a file, and we could, if we wanted to reopen the task here, see the subtasks that are inside our task. If I were to open the task and look at the left area, I'm gonna see all its ID card, its description, its information here at the top, the default fields, the custom fields, the subtasks that I can tweak and change statuses for, and the different items below. Next up, we're gonna have the right area, which is called the activity. So if this is the ID card of a task, that's its life. It's when it was born and everything that happened on it. It tells me who created this task, when, and all the custom comments made by people or agents. And if I were to just mention someone and tell them, can you check this? And that will add to the activity of a task. So that's where you actually collaborate on a task and reply to people's comments. What you saw in the inbox earlier actually stems here. Someone mentions you in a task and you see it in your inbox. What I can also do is mention what is called brain. And if I mention brain, I can say, close the task for me. And in natural language, it will close the task. So you'll understand what I want to do. I'll bring this task status to closed. So obviously I've asked it something super simple, but if I wanted, I could also say, search the web for viral product demo techniques in 2026. Brain is just going to search the web and come back to me with some information. Now that's it for your task. Main information on the left, ID card, life on the right. the activity of the task where I can collaborate. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this video with the two last things you need to know about. It's gonna be templates and automations. Think of templates and automations as ways to systemize your activity. Anything that you've done once should be stored in a process, turned into a template that you ideally could automate. And we're gonna do that together. We already have created a template that I'm gonna show you here called the video client template. And because I'm a video editing agency, I don't wanna have to reinvent the wheel each time I'm gonna create a new video. A video usually has a client, a project, a type, a duration. There's a bunch of information to spec out called the brief. So you're gonna store all that information in your task as a template. And that way you're gonna be able to reuse it anywhere in your ClickUp workspace. The way to do this is to save it as a template. We're gonna right click here and go to templates and save as template. And what this is gonna do is create a skeleton, create a pattern for that task that I can reuse as many times as I want in the future. So I'm gonna call this task video editing template. Click save, and then this task has been created. You can see it in the bottom left. I'm gonna reuse this task into a client project. So say I have to create a new video for Greenlight, and I have my list here. I'm just gonna go here and add this task to do for someone. And instead of creating a new task by just clicking add task, I'm gonna go into browse templates here and I'm gonna look it up. So I'm gonna search for something called video editing template, click it and click use template. And then I'm gonna call this Black Friday product tour, for example. I'm gonna click use. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna create the task, but it's gonna create it with all the information I've shown you earlier so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I'm gonna be able to open it up, assign it to the right person, and just fill in this information without having to completely rewrite the task. And it has all the information here in the description, the dates, the time estimate. So anything that I wanna make reusable, I actually have to go into the template library here, the video client template, in editing, and just update this main task, right click, templates, and update that existing templates. So this will become my library of every single template I have to do for clients. Now, I hope you grasped the concept of templates. It's a little bit complex to get at the beginning, but it will save you tons of hours if you do it right. Now, I've shown you this template thing, right? But say I want that every time I have a new project that starts in the editing list, I don't even have to think about applying a template. I just want to automate this. And ClickUp allows for this. If you click here in the top right, there is what's called ClickUp Automations. And ClickUp Automations here let you create new automations that you can reuse to the infinite. So if I give you a few examples here, I have stored examples of automations. Automations works this way. So they have a trigger in orange, and then potentially some optional filters, and then actions. So if this happens, then do that. You can, for example, have an automation that says, if the due date has passed and the priority is high or urgent, you notify the team manager in the chat. So if I get back here and I say, when a task is created, then apply the template, for example, that says video editing template and use. And then the next thing I could say is leave a comment that says at assignee, prepare client brief. Can actually either say dynamically add assignee or add a specific person, prepare client brief, and click create. And what this will do is that each time a new video is created, the editing template will be applied. So if I were to go here and say, okay, new product office tour demo, it will apply the template because the automation has triggered. So as you've seen, it's popped up as the template. And then I can just reassign to the right person. And as you can see, the automation bot has mentioned me to prepare the client brief, and they've put all the placeholders, so I don't have to do anything. So I've showed you a very basic template here. It's just like empty data to fill, but potentially you could put your whole SOP in there, or you could mention a document in here so that's systemizable and repeatable. this concept, you can extend it to whichever you want, because you could potentially have specific assignees, specific time estimates, depending on the type of template. You can have specific tags or custom fields. So basically anything you store in your template library is going to be reused. Another example of an automation that I see commonly being used is, for example, if a task moves to a certain status, if status changes to, say, review, then the assignee is applied and it's someone specific. And then I'll click create. And what's going to happen if this one goes into client review, the assignee changes to this person, which is the client, for example. So these are simple automations, but there's also more advanced ones that now leverage ClickUp AI. Because if you were to click here in the little mask next to the lightning, you can open it up and create agents. And ClickUp just suggests you a few agents like idea generator or content polisher or whatever, but you could also create your own super agents. And you could trigger them in templates. So you could say, for example, I have a person or a virtual agent capable of sorting out your tasks. So for example, this one is capable of prioritizing your task. You could also create your own custom agent. So if I were to go in automation, I could say, do anything with AI. When a custom field changes, for example, to whichever value, then it means it's to plan. So set the assignee and due date to next week. And the assignment rules are available in, and you can mention a document that actually has your assignee rules, and then put some tools and say, you're capable whenever we push a task to next to set a specific person based on this document that can actually open. So some people are capable of certain things in my team, and I've just specified everything here. So once you've specified your document, you've mentioned it, and you've allowed ClickUp to edit task, you click create, and that creates an automation that is a little bit smarter than other ones. It's not if this, then that. You can give as many informations, specifics, conditions to your AI so that it just takes care of things for you. So say if I go here and say I'm removing assignees and I'm putting this one as next. So because I've updated the batch field here, which is called next, ClickUp is gonna know, okay, there's an automation being triggered, and it's gonna use the automation and the AI agent to set the assignee and set the dates to next week and just prepare the task for me. As you can see, it's just put Luca and then some dates here to do next week. And then basically I'm good to go. And ClickUp has kind of like worked or acted as a project manager with rules for me. Now I'm done with everything I can show you in a short amount of time in ClickUp 4.0. But obviously there's probably most of the possibilities and features and little custom things you can do with ClickUp that I haven't shown you. So if you want to dive deeper into ClickUp and use it to its full potential, you can go to the page of ClickUp Master. It's got a full-on course with modules and lessons that are short and bite-sized and let you grasp ClickUp more easily since it's done step by step and with you. We're going to give you exercises so that we make sure that you follow us through the length of the video. So ClickUp Master is your way to go if you have time and if you want to dive deeper into how to use ClickUp. Now, obviously, there's also our consulting services that you can have a look at down the description. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about systemizations, automations, and AI, you can subscribe. And until then, stay productive.